For years, Kim Porter's name has echoed quietly through the entertainment world, not shouted, not debated openly, but whispered in corners where uncomfortable questions tend to live. Her passing in November of 2018 didn't just shock people, it froze them. One day she was here, deeply connected to one of the most powerful men in hip-hop, raising children, moving through life. The next, she was gone, just like that. The official explanation came fast, too fast for some. Lobar pneumonia, natural causes, case closed. And yet, for many who followed Kim's life closely, closure never came. Kim Porter wasn't someone the public associated with fragility. She was known as vibrant, present, and deeply involved in her children's lives. Friends and family described her as healthy, active, engaged. There was no public history of chronic illness. So when the narrative shifted almost immediately to a sudden medical decline, it left people uneasy, not because they had proof of wrongdoing, but because the timeline felt abrupt and incomplete. According to public reports, Kim began feeling unwell in early November, a sore throat, a fever. She reportedly tested negative for both the flu and strep throat. Doctors prescribed antibiotics, vitamins, and pain medication. By November 14th, her temperature was said to have returned to normal. She was reportedly feeling better enough, in fact, to receive a massage that night. That detail has lingered in public conversation ever since, not as evidence, but as a question. If someone is battling a severe case of pneumonia, why would they be well enough for a massage? Why would another person be brought into the home? And why has the identity of that person never been publicly clarified? These questions don't prove anything, but they refuse to disappear. When Kim was found unresponsive the following day, the shock rippled through the industry instantly. Media outlets arrived, friends gathered, cameras captured moments of grief. Sean "Diddy" Combs was seen at the home, visibly devastated. Kimora Lee Simmons appeared inconsolable. The world watched as the story unfolded, then stopped. No deep investigation, no prolonged public examination, no revisiting of details, just silence. And in the entertainment industry, silence is never accidental. As the years passed, something else became noticeable. Kim's children, particularly Quincy Brown, weren't speaking either. Quincy's position within the family was unique. Though raised by Diddy, his biological father is singer Al B. Sure, that placed Quincy at the center of two narratives, two worlds, two sets of truths. While others around Diddy moved loudly, Quincy did not. No social media defenses, no emotional statements, no public alignment. He stayed calm, quiet, observant, and people noticed. When controversies surrounding Diddy later erupted, lawsuits, raids, allegations dominating headlines, the public began comparing reactions. Christian Combs, Justin Combs, loud presences, public moments, viral clips. But Quincy, missing, absent, detached. That absence sparked speculation, not accusations, but curiosity. Why wasn't he reacting? Why wasn't he defending? Why wasn't he speaking at all? To some, it looked like distance. To others, it looked like restraint. And to a growing number of observers, it looked like strategy. Reports and insiders began suggesting that Quincy's priority was never public opinion. It was family, specifically his younger sisters. Those closest to the situation claimed Quincy felt a responsibility, one rooted in a promise to Kim, to protect them above all else. If that meant staying quiet, so be it. Then came the first major crack in the silence. Albie. Sure, Kim's ex-partner and Quincy's biological father had never fully accepted the official explanation for Kim's death. In social media posts that later went viral, Al expressed disbelief that pneumonia alone could explain her sudden passing. He described seeing Kim shortly before her death and noticing no signs of serious illness. According to him, she was healthy, laughing, engaged. In one emotional post, Al wrote that Kim didn't just check out over pneumonia. The post was later deleted, with Al explaining that Quincy contacted him and said the post was triggering. That moment alone added layers to the story. A son asking a father to stop speaking, not because he disagreed, but because the pain was too close. Still, even after removing the post, Al didn't retreat. In later interviews, he reiterated his doubts, carefully framing them as personal belief rather than fact. He made it clear he was not accusing anyone directly, but he refused to pretend the questions didn't exist. Then something else happened. In 2022, Al B. sure collapsed unexpectedly and was rushed to the hospital. What followed was a medical nightmare. According to his own public statements, he suffered multi-organ failure, required a transplant, underwent multiple procedures, and spent weeks in a coma. Doctors reportedly struggled to explain how his condition escalated so rapidly. After waking up, Al made a series of statements that reignited public attention. He suggested he believed his medical crisis was not random. In a televised interview, he stated that he felt powerful forces were involved.
Received a massage for about an hour when she's supposed to have full-blown pneumonia. Who gives somebody a massage when they got pneumonia? And do we know whether she used that baby oil or not for that massage?
Again, these were framed as his beliefs, not proven claims. But the timing and the history made people listen. Online, the conversation exploded. People began revisiting older cases, not because they were connected officially, but because patterns, even coincidental ones, create discomfort. Names surfaced repeatedly. Heavy D. Brittany Murphy, Bobby Christina Brown. All different stories, all different circumstances, yet similar causes listed. Pneumonia, complications, sudden decline. No conclusions were drawn, but the questions multiplied. Through it all, Quincy remained silent. No rebuttals, no interviews, no emotional outbursts, until whispers began circulating about something new, a documentary, not focused on accusations, not centered on lawsuits, but on Kim Porter herself, her life, her story, her unanswered questions. And then one name made people stop scrolling. 50 Cent. Known for revisiting uncomfortable industry truths and power dynamics, his alleged involvement immediately shifted the tone, especially since his previous Diddy-focused documentary skipped over Kim's passing entirely, a decision many viewers openly questioned. If Quincy is truly involved in shaping this project, it would mark a turning point. Because for the first time, Kim's narrative wouldn't be controlled by silence. It would be told by her son. And when sons speak about their mothers, the industry listens. The question now isn't what people believe, it's what happens when the story refuses to stay buried. As time passed, people began to realize that Quincy Brown's silence wasn't confusion, it was intention. In an industry where emotions spill onto social media instantly, Quincy chose restraint, and restraint is rarely accidental. While Diddy's name became tied to lawsuits, investigations, and public controversy, Quincy never rushed to defend him. He never went online to argue. He never tried to control the narrative. Instead, he stayed calm and kept his distance, a move that quietly separated him from everyone else in Diddy's orbit. According to those familiar with the situation, Quincy's focus was never public opinion. It was protection. Kim Porter's daughters were still young, and insiders claim Quincy felt responsible for keeping them safe, emotionally and otherwise. Speaking too early could have caused more harm than good. So he waited. Then came the Homeland Security raids. Photos of chaos flooded the internet. Christian and Justin Combs were reportedly detained briefly. Cameras rolled, social media exploded. But Quincy, missing. So were the twins. That absence didn't go unnoticed. People started asking why Quincy always seemed one step removed when things got messy. Speculation followed, some of it exaggerated, but the message underneath was clear. Quincy was no longer viewed as just another part of Diddy's inner circle. He was seen as separate, and separation matters. At the same time, Albee Shore continued speaking. Years after questioning Kim Porter's death, he appeared on mainstream television and stated openly that he never believed pneumonia explained her passing. He even suggested that his own medical collapse years later wasn't random. These were his beliefs, but once spoken publicly, they changed the conversation. With Diddy now incarcerated and long-standing power structures weakening, the timing feels different. Stories that once felt untouchable suddenly feel possible, and families who stayed silent for survival may now feel safe enough to speak. If the rumored documentary centered on Kim Porter truly moves forward, especially with Quincy involved, it wouldn't be about accusations. It would be about her story, her life, and the questions that never went away. Because silence only works until it doesn't. And right now, it feels like the silence is finally cracking. By now, one thing is impossible to ignore. Kim Porter's story never truly ended. It was paused, folded away, left unresolved in the shadows of power, reputation, and fear. And for years, that pause benefited everyone except the people who loved her most. Kim was more than a headline. She was a mother of 4, a woman who navigated fame without ever fully surrendering herself to it. People close to her described her as protective, intuitive, and deeply aware of the world she was raising her children in. That awareness is why many believe she moved cautiously, and why her sudden absence left such a void. When someone like Kim passes unexpectedly, the industry often rushes to simplify the narrative. Simple stories are easier to control. They don't invite questions. They don't invite investigations. They don't reopen wounds. And once a story is labeled closed, anyone who questions it risks being labeled disruptive, emotional, or worse. That's why silence becomes a survival tool. For years, the people closest to Kim, especially her children, lived under that silence. And while the public debated theories online, the real consequences were happening privately: grief, fear, protection, waiting. Quincy Brown's actions only make sense when you view them through that lens. He was never the loudest voice in the room. He never needed to be. Quincy understood something most people don't. Power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it watches, sometimes it waits, and sometimes it moves only when the conditions are right. While others spoke impulsively, Quincy stayed measured. While others reacted emotionally, Quincy stayed grounded, and that difference matters. Because in situations involving legacy, family, and influence, the loudest person is rarely the one holding the cards. As legal developments surrounding Diddy escalated and his public image shifted dramatically, the atmosphere changed. People who once felt untouchable no longer looked invincible. Structures that once felt immovable began to crack. And that's usually when the truth starts to breathe. This is also when voices long dismissed begin to sound different. Albee Shore's statements didn't suddenly change, but the way people heard them did. What once sounded uncomfortable or inconvenient now sounded urgent. His repeated insistence that Kim's death didn't make sense, his description of her health, and his own unexplained medical crisis all took on new weight in a world that had become more willing to question authority. Still, none of this proves wrongdoing, and that distinction matters. What it does prove is that unanswered questions don't disappear just because they're ignored. They linger, they resurface, and eventually they demand space. That's why the possibility of a documentary centered on Kim Porter is so significant. Not because it promises scandal, but because it promises perspective. A chance to see Kim not as a footnote in someone else's story, but as the center of her own. If Quincy is truly involved in telling that story, it would mark a powerful shift. It would mean the narrative is no longer controlled by silence or convenience. It would mean Kim's children are reclaiming her legacy on their own terms, and that alone would be historic. Because in the entertainment industry, legacy is often rewritten by those with the most influence. Stories get shaped, details get softened, memories get edited, but family stories are harder to erase. especially when the people telling them have waited patiently for the right moment. This moment feels different, not rushed, not emotional, but intentional. And intention is dangerous to systems built on silence. The truth doesn't always come in the form of accusations. Sometimes it comes as context. Sometimes it comes as history finally being told without fear. And sometimes it comes simply as someone saying, "This story isn't finished. Kim Porter's story isn't finished." Whether through a documentary, public conversations, or quiet revelations, her name continues to surface because it refuses to stay buried. And if the people closest to her are finally ready to speak, or even just to allow her story to be told, it could reshape how an entire era is remembered. Not with rage, not with chaos, but with clarity. So now the question isn't whether people will talk, it's whether people are ready to listen. Because once silence breaks, it never goes back the same. If you found this breakdown thought-provoking, make sure to like this video. It helps the conversation reach more people who are asking the same questions. Share this with someone who remembers Kim Porter and believes her story deserves to be told fully. And subscribe to I Love Gossip for more deep dives that go beyond headlines, connect the dots, and explore the stories the industry never finished telling. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you believe Kim Porter's case deserves renewed attention? And do you think the truth always surfaces, no matter how long it takes? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's talk.